If we love the music, we all have a heart to do it. It's really the heart.
Ricky Skaggs has spent his life surrounded by sound, the shimmer of mandolins, the heartbeat of fiddles, the soft echo of applause, fading into a night that always promised another song. But in 2025, something feels different. The lights haven't dimmed, yet the air around his name seems charged again, electric, unpredictable. Headlines whisper that change is stirring in the world of a man long defined by tradition. A familiar face from his legendary band has quietly stepped away. His old studio, once a temple of acoustic purity, now hums again. After years of silence, reborn, rebuilt, and ready. For 6 decades, Skaggs has walked that narrow line between past and present. A man guarding the soul of bluegrass while still daring to reshape it. Yet now, the question that shadows every announcement is simple and unsettling. What exactly is he preparing? Because the pieces don't just add up to nostalgia. They form a pattern, one that suggests movement, purpose, and perhaps reinvention. Those close to the industry describe it as a creative reignition, but to longtime followers, it feels almost prophetic. A beloved bandmate departs, a legendary studio rises again, and behind closed doors, something new is taking form. It's easy to forget how often the biggest shifts begin quietly. A single statement, a studio door reopening, a tour date added in a small southern town. But those who've watched Skaggs long enough know that he doesn't do anything by accident. Every note, every choice carries intention. And when a man like Ricky Skaggs starts rebuilding from the ground up, the music world listens. What's coming next might not only define his future, it might reshape how his generation's legacy lives on. To understand that moment, we first need to look at the man himself, standing in the crossroads of 2025. The guardian of a sound, the keeper of tradition, and the artist still daring to move forward. Ricky Skaggs today stands not just as a performer, but as a pillar in the vast cathedral of American roots music. His story stretches across more than 60 years. From a prodigious Kentucky child playing beside Bill Monroe, to a 15-time Grammy winner whose fingerprints are etched across bluegrass, gospel, and country alike. Yet in 2025, his career feels less like a legacy being preserved and more like a legacy in motion. Media outlets once again circle his name, announcing new tour dates, celebrating tributes to fallen friends, and spotlighting the revival of his Hendersonville studio. The resurgence isn't nostalgia, it's curiosity. Even after 6 decades, Skaggs remains unpredictable. For a man rooted in tradition, his presence in the fast-moving music world is almost paradoxical. Quiet but constant, old world yet current. His influence extends beyond the stage. Among younger musicians, Skaggs represents mentorship, proof that one can evolve without surrendering authenticity. He's not chasing viral moments or algorithmic fame. He's refining his craft where it began, in the live room, surrounded by wood, wire, and spirit. That's what makes the reopening of Skaggs Play Studio such a powerful symbol. It's not just about acoustics. It's about reclaiming creative command in an era where most artists are at the mercy of streaming platforms. But the 2025 landscape is not the same world Skaggs once conquered. The digital age moves faster than the sound of a banjo roll. Algorithms decide who gets heard. Attention spans shrink. For veterans like Skaggs, relevance requires resilience, the ability to adapt without eroding the integrity of one's sound. And that is precisely the tightrope he walks. Longtime fans expect familiarity, the mandolin runs that feel like prayer, the harmonies that call back to the Appalachian Hills. Yet new audiences crave evolution, texture, collaboration, surprise. Bridging those worlds is the essence of Ricky Skaggs. 2025. He stands as the interpreter between past and present, reminding both sides that real music breathes, bends, and still believes in soul over spectacle. And yet, amid that balance, something personal stirs beneath the surface. A shift that tests not just his artistry, but his loyalty. The harmony inside his band, once as seamless as his stagecraft, is about to change. In mid-August 2025, the harmony that defined Kentucky Thunder changed forever. Ricky Skaggs took to his official channels with a message few expected. Longtime bandmate Dennis Parker was stepping away. There was no scandal, no bitterness, just a quiet, heartfelt farewell. Skaggs called it a beloved loss, a phrase that carried both warmth and ache. For years, Parker's voice and musicianship had been woven into the DNA of Kentucky Thunder. To fans, he wasn't just another player, he was family. His harmonies had colored the band's emotional landscape, his stage presence a steady light. So when Skaggs announced his departure, the reaction rippled far beyond bluegrass circles. Fans flooded comment sections with tributes and memories. Some mourned the change, others offered gratitude. Musicians who had shared stages with both men wrote words of understanding and respect. Even in farewell, Skaggs' message stood apart. No dramatics, no rumors, only compassion. It was the kind of leadership that reflected not ego, but grace. In that statement, Skaggs revealed more than news. He revealed himself. His choice of words, beloved loss, suggested a man unafraid to show feeling. In an industry often guarded by image, he let authenticity speak. The move showed the depth of his loyalty and his belief that music, at its core, is a human bond before it's an art form. To fill the gap, Skaggs introduced Troy Angel, a versatile musician capable of multiple instruments and harmonies. The transition was symbolic, not a replacement, but an evolution. With Angel's arrival, a new phase of Kentucky Thunder began. The chance to reshape sound while honoring what came before. Observers saw the moment as a rare window into Skaggs' inner world, a glimpse of a leader who values both precision and compassion. He could have framed the change as business, but he framed it as brotherhood. That alone set him apart. And beyond the emotions, the event hinted at a larger undercurrent. Change within a band often signals change within the artist. It raised quiet questions. If Skaggs is willing to adjust the very chemistry of his longtime ensemble, what else might he be preparing to transform? That sense of transformation, careful, deliberate, yet profound, leads directly to the next chapter. Because while fans were still processing Parker's exit, Skaggs himself was opening another door. Not metaphorically, but literally, in the heart of Hendersonville, Tennessee. A door marked Skaggs' place. Rebuilt, reimagined, and ready to make history again. When Ricky Skaggs opened the doors to Skaggs' Place Studio once again, it wasn't just another reopening, it was resurrection. For years, the studio had stood in quiet reverence, its walls lined with instruments that had once echoed with the laughter of pickers and the pulse of timeless sound. Now, after years of stillness, the hum of life returned, lights glowing, cables running, mandolins tuned. This revival came at a symbolic moment, only weeks after the farewell to Dennis Parker. To those who knew Skaggs, it felt deliberate. He has always believed that endings and beginnings are rarely separate. They coexist like verses in the same song. And indeed, this was not a chapter closed, but one reborn. The renovation of Skaggs' Place was meticulous, every wooden beam sanded, every recording line tested with care. The space was more than a studio. It was an altar to authenticity. Skaggs' approach to sound has always been spiritual, and this rebirth felt like a pilgrimage. He wanted a room where real music could breathe again, where the energy of bluegrass, gospel, and mountain soul could find new language in modern times. In interviews, Skaggs spoke about the purpose behind the revival. I wanted a place where the music could feel alive again, not polished by machines, but touched by hands. It's a statement that captures his lifelong ethos. In an industry often driven by software and speed, Skaggs' commitment to raw acoustic truth feels revolutionary. He isn't chasing trends. He's restoring the ground others will stand on. And as word spread that Skaggs' Place was operational once more, speculation rose. What was he recording? Was it a tribute? A collaboration? A farewell? No official details surfaced, but insiders hinted that the first sessions were deeply personal. Songs rooted in faith, memory, and gratitude. It's not the first time a great artist has gone back to where it all began. But for Ricky Skaggs, this return wasn't about comfort, it was about clarity. A man who once stood beside the legends of bluegrass was now building something that might one day guide the legends yet to come. Musicians who visited the new Skaggs' Place described it as holy ground. Instruments lined the walls, each with its own history. The same mandolin he played with Bill Monroe, the same microphone that captured harmonies decades ago. Yet everything felt alive again, as if time had folded in on itself and offered a second chance. The reopening also marked a statement to the industry that legacy and innovation are not enemies. In the same way he once bridged bluegrass and country, Skaggs was now bridging the analog past and digital present. Every knob, every fader carried that message. The old sound can still speak to the new world. And as the studio filled once more with life, another announcement loomed. One that would take the reborn sound of Skaggs' Place straight back to the people who had carried his music for decades. The stage, it seemed, was calling again. When news broke that Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder were returning to the road, the timing couldn't have been more poetic. The ink was barely dry on the Skaggs' Place revival, and now, after years of limited appearances, the man who defined the heart of bluegrass was ready to meet his audience face to face again. For fans, the announcement felt like a reunion more than a concert tour. Dates began appearing, from Tennessee's heartland to the winding mountain towns that first raised his name. Each stop carried the same emotion: gratitude. Skaggs wasn't touring to chase fame, he was touring to reconnect. The first shows of the 2025 Road to Glory Tour were intimate, smaller venues, wooden stages, acoustic warmth. But those who attended described something remarkable: a renewed spirit in both Skaggs and his band. The addition of Troy Angel brought a fresh energy, balancing the emotional gap left by Dennis Parker's departure. The harmonies felt new yet familiar, like a family rediscovering its rhythm after a long silence. Audiences could feel it too. There was laughter, nostalgia, and reverence all intertwined. Between songs, Skaggs often paused to tell stories of his early mentors, his faith, his family, and the friends he's lost along the way. Each story flowed naturally into the next tune, turning every performance into something closer to testimony than showmanship. Critics noticed as well. Reviews spoke of a man not revisiting his past, but rewriting it. The set lists blended the old with the new Highway 40 blues next to a never-before-heard instrumental, a gospel medley that brought entire halls to their feet. In those moments, it was clear that the road wasn't just a stage, it was a sanctuary. And yet, beneath the celebration, there was a quiet undercurrent of reflection. Ricky Skaggs, now in his 70s, carries the kind of grace that comes only from years of standing at the crossroads of time. Each performance feels like both a look back and a leap forward. When he plays, it's as if he's speaking to generations at once, the ones who grew up with him and the ones discovering him for the first time on a streaming playlist. The road, like the studio, became a metaphor for his 2025 journey: revival through movement. Every concert reinforced what Skaggs' Place represented: continuity, resilience, and renewal. Together, they told one story: that no matter how much the world changes, real music will always find its way home. And as the last notes faded into applause, Skaggs often stood quietly for a moment, smiling, eyes lifted, mandolin against his chest. It was the same look he wore decades ago, but now with something deeper behind it. Not pride, not nostalgia, something closer to peace. Because when a legend returns to the road after rebuilding his house of sound, it isn't about proving anything. It's about coming home to where it all began. As the applause from the final encore faded into the night, there was one thing even the most dedicated fans could sense. Ricky Skaggs' journey in 2025 wasn't being led by fame or nostalgia. It was being guided by something deeper, something unseen. Faith had always been the heartbeat of his story, but never had it felt more central than now. After the revival of Skaggs' Place and the return to the road, his interviews began to reveal a man not just performing, but listening to his faith, to his family, to the quiet voice that had carried him through decades of change. In a world where music careers often burn fast and fade faster, Skaggs has found his endurance not in chart numbers, but in conviction. His belief system has never been performative, it's personal. He often says, "I didn't find faith, faith found me." And that sentiment echoes through every note he plays. This guiding hand of belief isn't abstract. It's visible in the way he honors his family, especially his wife, Sharon White, herself a legend from the Whites. Their marriage, spanning more than 4 decades, remains one of country music's strongest partnerships, built on harmony both on and off the stage. Sharon's father, Buck White, was more than family to Ricky. He was a mentor, a fellow traveler, and a symbol of the kind of integrity Ricky built his career upon. So when Buck passed away at 94, it wasn't just a personal loss. It was the closing of a generational circle. Yet even in grief, Ricky found a way to celebrate life. During interviews that followed, he spoke softly about Buck's spirit still being present in the music, in the laughter that still filled their home, and in the legacy of faith that continues to guide their family. It's that same grounded faith that defines how Ricky approaches his fans. He never refers to them as the audience. Instead, he calls them family. At his shows, he often pauses to remind everyone that they're not just there to listen, they're there to belong. That sense of unity isn't scripted, it's lived. As Skaggs' 2025 tour carried on, so did his acts of quiet mentorship. Between performances, he made unpublicized visits to youth music programs in small-town churches, offering advice and encouragement to the next generation of musicians who still pick up a mandolin the way he once did, with hope. Every chord, every smile, every story now carries the weight of that purpose. He's no longer just a performer, he's a vessel. His music is testimony, his presence, a reminder that endurance isn't about staying relevant, it's about staying true. And as the camera of life pans from stage lights to the quiet of Skaggs' Place studio, you can almost picture him there, head bowed slightly, tuning his mandolin, whispering a short prayer before hitting record again. Not for applause, not for numbers, but for the simple reason that faith, for Ricky Skaggs, has always been the song beneath every song. And yet, as fulfilling as this chapter has been, one question lingers in the background. What will he ultimately leave behind when the music fades? When an artist reaches the twilight of a career as vast as Ricky Skaggs's, people often ask the wrong question. They ask how much longer he'll play, instead of what he's playing for. In 2025, that answer has become clearer than ever. For Skaggs, legacy isn't a monument, it's a mission. Everything he's done this year, from rebuilding Skaggs' Place to reshaping his touring sound, reflects a deep understanding that legacy is built in motion, not memory. He's not preserving the past. He's teaching it how to breathe in the present. And this, perhaps, is his greatest gift to the world. That tradition doesn't have to be trapped in time. In his hands, bluegrass still evolves, never breaking from its roots, but reaching toward new skies. Each project he touches feels like a message to future generations. Don't just imitate the old sound. Understand it, then make it yours. This idea has found new expression through his mentorship efforts. Skaggs has quietly been bringing younger artists into his studio, guiding them not only through technique, but through philosophy. It's not just about how you play, he often tells them. It's about what you believe while you're playing. In those sessions, legacy becomes a living exchange, a bridge from one soul to another. There's no ego, no sense of ownership, just gratitude. And that gratitude has extended to his reflections on loss. When Jeannie Seely passed away earlier this year, Skaggs was among the first to speak publicly, not with sorrow, but with honor. He called her one of the greatest lights to ever grace the Opry stage. His tribute reminded fans that even as legends leave, their influence doesn't vanish, it transforms. That's what Skaggs himself has become, transformation embodied. The boy who once stood beside Bill Monroe now stands as the torchbearer for those who will come after. He's the living proof that you don't have to chase relevance to stay meaningful. You just have to keep telling the truth. In every interview, there's a calmness, a man no longer striving for recognition, but for resonance. He knows the music will outlast him. The only question is how it will sound when it does. And so, as we look at Ricky Skaggs in this new era, What we see isn't a man winding down, but one passing forward. The studio, the road, the family, the faith, they all point toward one final message: that legacy isn't left behind. It's lived forward, one song, one heart, one honest note at a time. The story of Ricky Skaggs is far from over. If anything, it's entering its purest form, stripped of pressure, untouched by noise. Just truth, sound, and the quiet certainty that somewhere, long after the lights dim, someone will pick up a mandolin and feel what he felt. And that, more than any award, any record, or any Hall of Fame, is how legends never fade. They echo. Legacy, as Ricky Skaggs has learned, isn't measured only in music, it's measured in how you carry the weight of goodbye. Just as the revival of Skaggs Place symbolized renewal and the tour embodied reconnection, the year 2025 brought another layer to his story, one of reflection, remembrance, and quiet resilience. Because for every encore and every standing ovation, there are moments when the stage lights dim and the silence feels heavier than the applause ever did. The country and bluegrass world has lost many familiar voices in recent years, and Skaggs has stood at more than one farewell. But perhaps none felt more personal than the passing of his dear friend and fellow Opry legend, Jeannie Seely. When news of her death at 85 spread across the industry, tributes poured in from every corner of Nashville. Yet it was Ricky's response that struck the deepest chord. In a heartfelt statement, he didn't talk about her fame or her records. Instead, he spoke about her kindness, about how she never missed a chance to make someone feel seen, about how backstage, long before the lights came up, she'd offer words of encouragement to anyone nervous before a debut. That, he said, was her true music, and it never stopped playing. His words were shared thousands of times online, resonating with musicians and fans alike. But behind that public moment was something even more revealing. Those who attended her memorial performance at the Grand Ole Opry recalled how Skaggs stood quietly at the side of the stage, mandolin in hand, eyes closed. When he finally stepped forward, he didn't deliver a grand speech. He just played. No introduction, no words. Just melody. Soft, slow, reverent. The song said everything words couldn't. That night, people described it as the sound of love saying goodbye. And that's exactly what it was. It's in moments like these that Ricky's legacy becomes something beyond fame. He's not just carrying the sound of a generation. He's carrying its soul. His response to loss, whether it's a friend, a bandmate, or a mentor, has always been the same: gratitude. Instead of hiding from grief, he lets it guide him. Even the departure of Dennis Parker earlier in the year carried that same emotional truth. When he called Parker's exit from Kentucky Thunder a beloved loss, it wasn't just a phrase, it was a philosophy. In his world, every goodbye holds beauty because it means something real once existed. And perhaps that's why his connection with fans runs so deep. They don't just hear his music, they feel his humanity. In an era where fame is fleeting and authenticity is rare, Ricky Skaggs continues to remind us that vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. In interviews after Seely's tribute, he was asked what keeps him going after so many goodbyes. His answer was simple: because love doesn't end, it just changes keys. That line, poetic as it is, captures the core of who Ricky Skaggs is. The mandolin, the faith, the voice, they're all expressions of one truth: that music is how the heart remembers what words cannot hold. And as fans packed into small-town halls and Opry nights that followed, that truth echoed louder than ever. His songs became living memorials, not just for Jeannie, or Buck, or Dennis, but for every person whose spirit still lingers in the spaces between notes. Ricky Skaggs has learned to play those spaces like few others. In his hands, loss becomes light, endings become echoes, and grief transforms into grace. And it's through that transformation that the final chapter of his story begins to take shape. Not one of farewell, but of faith, resilience, and a promise that even the softest sound can last forever.